Okay, so now we're gonna get another sheet pan. We are gonna put that on top to weigh it down. And then we're gonna put it in the oven. Now you wanna make sure you have flat sheet pans. Actually, I think I'm gonna flip. This one's a little bit flatter. So I'm gonna do a little switch here because this one's more rounded so that it doesn't affect the evenness of my puff pastry. So I'm going to weigh it down with this one. Now this is gonna go into my 400-degree oven. I'm gonna check it. I may, depending on how it bakes, I may take the top off and let it brown a little bit more. Typically I don't need to, but you just have to check and see how it's baking. But you wanna make sure that it's weighed down nicely. As you can see, our cream horn is starting. Let me flip it around here. So it won't let me flip it around in the middle of the recording. Let's see if you guys can see. Our cream horn is baking nicely. I don't want to lose too much heat, so I'm going to close it. So we have 2 items in the oven with puff pastry. Now, another item that we're going to make, I give you guys some squares. Now, you can purchase puff pastry for convenience, already cut into equal squares. So if you're making a lot of apple turnovers or cherry turnovers or guava cheese pastries, you can just purchase them already cut into even squares. So we're gonna make 2 turnovers. I have my even squares. You're gonna need egg wash. You're going to need a fork, a regular fork. And a pastry brush, of course. You're gonna need a coarse sugar and you're gonna need your fillings. Now, we are going to be using bought filling. Of course, I'm always an advocate for making your fillings from scratch. But for the purpose of learning, we're gonna do bought fillings. It's more about the shapes of puff pastry. When I do purchase a bought filling, I always doctor it up. You can add, for example, for apple filling, you could add cinnamon, some allspice, maybe a little nutmeg, a little lemon zest, a little rum, a little vanilla, depending on what flavor profile you want to do, just to doctor it up a little bit. So it's very simple for turnovers. You're just gonna take your egg wash with your pastry brush, and I'm gonna do it a little backwards so you guys can get a better view. You're just gonna egg wash 2 sides of your square. I'm gonna do 2 at a time. So if you were doing 20 or 12 or 50 at a time, you would line all your squares up, and then you would egg wash every single corner, and then you would fill every corner, then you would fold every corner. It'd be like an assembly line. We like to use scoops so we have an even amount in our turnovers for every single turnover. So I'm gonna put a scoop. This is a medium to small size scoop. I would guess it's probably about 2 tablespoons. And you're gonna put your filling directly in the center. And then you're just going to fold it over, sealing that in. Careful not to get any filling on that egg wash because we don't want it to leak out. And once that filling comes in contact, you're more apt to have a leak. You also want, as you're folding it, you want to kind of try and make sure there's not any air. So I'm kind of shaping around the apple and then bringing that last bit of air out. So we have a nice triangle, okay? Now at this point, you could transfer it onto your sheet pan, and then we would crimp it. So we're just gonna take our fork and we're just gonna lightly just put a little crimp all the way around, just to seal that in. Then we are going to egg wash the top, and this would be done while it's on the paper, on the parchment paper. We would do this, all of them at once. Okay, so we're egg washing the whole thing, the whole pastry. Then you would put your coarse sugar, which I have only regular granulated. So imagine that beautiful, sparkly coarse sugar, generous amount. Remember, when you bake and you have coarse sugar on an item, a little percentage of that sugar always melts. So you want to be generous if you want to have that look. And then we need to put a little air vent in our turnover. So you're going to take your scissors, and in the direction towards the point, you're just going to put a little snip. Let me bring that closer so you guys can get a better view. Okay, so there is our apple turnover. Now you would do the exact same thing with any other filling that you were choosing to make. So you can do the same exact thing with your cherry. So we'll do that now so you can see it again. We put our filling. You don't want to overfill, even though it's tempting, because everyone likes a lot of filling, because it will ooze out and then they won't be pretty. And it is tempting, right? Because we love a lot of filling. But the pastry's delicious too. All right, so we're crimping all the way around. And then we are going to egg wash the whole thing. And maybe with the cherry, I decided I don't want to add extra sugar. We're just going to leave that shiny. And of course, we're going to put our air hole. So when it bakes, it doesn't puff out the sides. That allows the steam to come out so that they stay nice. All right, and that is our cherry and apple turnover, okay? So we're going to set those aside here. Okay, now the next pastry we're going to make is a guava cheese pastry. Very popular down in South Florida. There's lots of ways you could shape or style that. It's getting a little sticky, so I'm putting a tinge of flour. This is just the way that we like to do it at Mcfatter. So you're gonna need some guava paste. Now, I would put it in a piping bag, you know, just like you guys at home are improvising sometimes. I'm improvising because I didn't bring any piping bags home. So I used a handy dandy gallon Ziploc bag, and we're not doing anything fancy, so it will suffice. We're gonna put some guava paste in a pastry bag and cut ourselves a little hole so we can pipe it out nicely. And we are going to need some cream cheese. So we're gonna take our chef knife, and we just need a small little stick of cream cheese. So I'm gonna cut down and cut me a slice. And then I'm going to cut a piece of cream cheese. All right, so it's about this size. All right, so we have our guava, we have our cream cheese, we have egg wash, we have our puff pastry, we have sugar, we have all of our tools. All right, so this one is gonna be a rectangular shape instead of a triangle. So I'm going to I'm going to brush one long and halfway across the other two. Okay. Then I'm going to put my piece of cream cheese. Now, I think the cream cheese is a little short, so I'm actually gonna add a little bit more because I want it to be long. Whoops, that's a little too long. So they get a nice bite with both pastries in there, okay? So if you guys can see, okay? Then I'm going to pipe equal amount of guava paste down, if you guys can see this or not, down the side here. Now the cream cheese has no sweetness to it, but guava is very, especially when you buy guava paste, is very sweet. So we have the, you can see here, the tangy cream cheese with the sweet guava is a nice combination. All right, now we're just going to fold that over. Now, something like this, you could make up a lot ahead of time. You could do the same thing with the turnovers and not bake them off unless you were selling a large quantity. You could just bake off if you only needed 4 or 5. You could bake off 4 and 5, and you could keep 2-3 dozen in the freezer, and then every day you bake off a few fresh. That's the beauty of a pastry like this. You can have it all ready to go, and then you just bake it fresh. Now we're also going to crimp these all the way around. Okay, so we have like a little pillow, right? We are going to put a little air vent. Make sure you go all the way through. We're going to egg wash. Now I prefer a more traditional brush, but this is what I have in my house. These silicone ones, they're nice for a lot of things, maybe not the best for egg wash. And of course, coarse sugar. Okay. And there you have your guava cheese pastry. Now once I bake all these off, I'll send you guys a picture so you can see all of them. Okay, so what else are we going to make? We are going to make, I'm going to show you guys a couple extra things. Let's see. Another thing that you can make that's nice with the squares, so you have another square here, is a pinwheel. So for the pinwheel, you're just going to put a little dot of egg wash in the center. You're going to take your pastry wheel and you are going to cut slits going in towards the center. Show you guys. Okay, like so. You see that? Sorry, I'm not a big videographer. Then you're going to grab a corner, the same corner going all the way around, and you're going to bring it to the center. One on each cut. And bring it to the center. And that gives you, show you another view of that. That gives you a pinwheel. Now this would be a pastry that I would most likely, if I'm using a filling that's soft, I would probably bake without the filling, and it would be served with a filling that I added after it's baked, because it doesn't give you a lot of space and it could kind of get messy. If you were to use maybe like a piece of poached fruit or something more dry, you could probably bake it ahead of time. So that's another item that you can make. All right, another item that you can do, I'm going to cut a little square so I can show you. Don't really have a specific name for it. You could call it like a pastry diamond. I'm not sure if there is a real name for it, but you just take your puff pastry square and you cut 2 slits on each side, but not touching. I'll show you in a second so you can get a better view. So you make almost like a picture frame on the outside, but you don't connect all 4 corners. You only connect 2. So you see these connect on both sides, but these 2 did not connect. And then you're going to egg wash the inside of the picture frame, the circumference, the outside rim. And then you're going to take the 2 sides that are cut and you're going to fold them over. Hopefully you guys can see this itself. And you have that. Okay, now this, you could egg wash this rim, outer rim. You could sugar it if you wanted. You would dock the center Okay, so it doesn't puff in the center. Then you would bake that, and then you could fill it with a filling. You could do something savory with that. You could make a little chicken pot pie mix. You could do something sweet and put it inside. You could fill it with pastry cream and fresh fruit. You could dust it with powdered sugar. Sky's the limit. Okay. Another item that you can do is what's called a vol au vent. And I need to go get a couple rings because I forgot my mise en place. Let me be right back. Okay guys, we're gonna improvise a little bit because I don't wanna waste too much time. So for vol au vent, you need 2 rings, 2 different sizes. These are a little bit too close in size for me to really show you a proper demo. So I'm going to use the outside ring of one of my piping tips to make my circle. But I do have a nice set, but I'm just gonna do this so I can show you guys. But you need 2 rings. And you want a decent size frame. I'm gonna just check on our puff pastry. I can smell it in the oven. Okay. And our cream horn is done. Now it's a little bit golden brown, probably slightly more golden than I would like because I was busy showing you guys. We're gonna let that cool. You can see the sugar caramelize nicely on there. I'll take that ring off and show you guys how to fill it later. Okay, and I'm going to check on my Napoleon puff pastry. Just want to give you guys a little look here. So you can see it's on the paper, through the paper, I can see it starting to brown nicely and nice and flat. It's looking really good. Okay, I'm gonna put the sheet pan back on top and let it brown. You want it to be nice and crispy. Okay, so vol au vent, basically we're making a little cup. All right, so we are going, first we're going to, now if your dough is sticky, you can always dip it in a little flour. I don't think it's necessary. The first thing you're gonna do is you're going to make a round, right? So we're just cutting a nice circle out of our puff pastry. All right, now that round is going to be docked. So we're gonna take our fork and we're gonna prick it, all right? Now we're gonna make another circle with the exact same ring, except this time, here's our scraps, see, and we're gonna stack those nicely. This time we are going to cut a center, so we're gonna make like a donut, right? So I'm gonna use my tip to cut. Okay, now we don't need this, this can be a scrap. Okay, so I know I have my perfect little ring. Now you're gonna take just a little bit of egg wash. I'm going to just do the outside circumference for glue. And we're gonna set our ring on top. Okay, like so. There we go, let me show you guys. There we go, okay? Now I'm going to egg wash just that frame, that top piece. And that is ready to go in the oven. Now what's gonna happen is that's gonna puff up, but the center that's docked will not puff up and just the sides will, and then we're gonna have a nice straight cup. Okay, so let's see, did I make everything? I want to show you guys another thing, but I got to make sure I have enough to do everything because I want to show you palmiers, and we don't have much scrap left. All right, this will be for palmiers. And okay, so another pastry that you can do, some people call it a braid. It's not really a braid, but in French there we do an apple pastry called a jalousie, and jalousie means like blinds, like window blinds in French. And you can do it with any kind of filling. I like to do with like fresh apples, toss them in cinnamon sugar, and some spices, and you just kind of fan them down the center. But what we're gonna just do for the purposes of demonstration, you wanna have kind of a rectangular piece, okay? Then you're going to cut slits, and you're gonna wanna use something as your guide so that your slits are even. So I'm gonna use my bench scraper, and I'm going to get a knife for this one. You probably wanna use like a paring knife, okay? So then you're going to cut even slits going across. Now hopefully I'm going in far enough. I might have to cut it a little more. Okay. And then you're gonna do it on the other side. You can even do them a little longer, a little wider. You can do a full size. You don't have to do individual. Typically I do it as a full size and then cut it into slices. Okay. Now we're gonna put our filling inside. You know what? I'm gonna do guava because I have it in a piping bag, even though I'm not a huge guava person. Okay, you could do your sliced apples in there. Something that's not too juicy. Then we're gonna take our slits and we're just going to cross them over. So I'm just turning it slightly and just doing every other one across, and then you just finish at the end like so. Okay, I'm just gonna show you guys, and then I'm going to do a part 3. So there you have a little beautiful pastry. You can egg wash and sugar that if you'd like.